To the Bone, the podcast that goes deeper. Here we cut through the noise and get straight to the core of the issues that matter. From real stories to raw truths, we dive deep into the conversations that shape our world and challenge our thinking. We're not afraid to dig in and get to the marrow of it all. Whether it's life, culture, or business in sports medicine, we're here to break it down raw and real. No filters, no fluff, just to the bone. With your host, Shelby Daly, we're getting to the bone. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Bone. Today we have Frances Gilbert, and she is interviewing from Savannah, Georgia. She is the Director of Athletic Training for the Savannah Bananas. Welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So I wanted to start off, and for the listeners that are not familiar with the Savannah Bananas, which would be bananas if you have not heard of them, can you give a quick overview of what the Savannah Bananas are and what is the mission behind the new Banana Ball League that's happening?
So the Bananas have been around since 2016, and basically started as a college summer league, so just kind of the college league that players come in and play during the summer. They come in and the owner's goal has always been to create a fans first environment. That is the overarching company name, is Fans First Entertainment. So the priority has always been on the fan experience and finding a way to kind of make an enjoyable, family friendly, exciting atmosphere to watch baseball. We have kind of grown and transitioned a little bit to becoming more of our own independent team, and now we play by our own Banana Ball rules. So we've made some adjustments to the traditional game of baseball to have a little bit more fun, try and keep fans and crowds more engaged, and then always entertaining the fans as well. So it's grown a lot over the time and kind of transitioned from just being those college summer players coming in to have kind of their off season, their downtime, and spending it here in Savannah, to now it's a full world tour where we're constantly expanding and constantly growing and developing our own teams, developing our own rules, and now we're touring all across the country.
Yeah. So what setting would Savannah Banana Ball be considered? Is it a sport? Is it entertainment? Is it performing arts? I mean, not a lot of traditional baseball players are doing backflips or doing cha-cha real smooth while playing. So does it encompass all the settings? What would you categorize it as?
It's so funny because it really truly does encompass it kind of encompasses both professional sports, because what we're trying to build here is a high level performance department and making sure that we're bringing in competitive high level athletes to play Banana Ball. So we're trying to match their energy and what they bring and what they bring put on the table by creating a professional level medical and performance environment. And then on the flip side, you also do have the entertainment pieces. So there is some performing arts side of things where you have to be a little creative and a little unique on how you're seeing things and envisioning things, and then how you're treating things kind of on the medical side as well. And then sometimes we have one thing that is really great about here is kind of how ingrained we are just as a company as a whole. So sometimes I end up seeing almost industrial type injuries, just people that some of our other staff members that may have something go wrong. Hey, how do we bring this in? How do we kind of check you out, make sure everything's okay, any referrals we need to make. So I see a little bit of kind of all realms over here.
So the full spectrum of athletic training.
Absolutely.
So with you working with Savannah Bananas, how did you become involved, and what is a little bit of your background that made you want to be a part of this newly developing league ultimately?
So I started, I guess I've been, what year is it? 2025. I've been an athletic trainer for 13 years. And when I first started, collegiate was kind of my realm. I loved college level sports. And I ultimately ended up working college baseball at the University of North Georgia. Um, and I worked there for 4 years before I ended up going over and working in the NWSL, the National Women's Soccer League, for 4 years with the Houston Dash. Um, it was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. I loved college baseball, but I just knew that it wasn't. Um, Moving to a professional level league was something I couldn't pass up. It was a location that I wanted to be in. Um, so it was just right timing for me there. And then when I was kind of winding down in Houston, looking at like the next steps and where I wanted to go next, it just so happens that two of the Bananas players that have been here for a really long time were actually my college athletes at North Georgia. So I did have the connection. You did have it's always who you know, right? Um, and so I did have a connection, and I called them and I was like, hey, I see you guys are trying to bring on an athletic trainer. Give me the rundown. Tell me everything. Give me the nitty gritty. What's the deal? And so we talked about kind of how their evolution a little bit and how they were growing and moving towards this touring setup and Banana Ball. And at the time, they had two teams. There were just two teams, and we were basically always going and playing ourselves. And when I was talking with them, it all sounded great. Sounded like a fun time. But what I wanted to know, and so I ended up speaking with one of the coaches before I accepted the offer. Because what I wanted to know was what were the long-term goals? What was I going to step into a role that I could try and advocate and push and grow a professional level department? Because quite frankly, that's what I had been doing for 4 years in the NWSL. I spent a lot of time, that window that I was in the NWSL was a huge growth period for that league. It was, I think, year 6 to 10 of that league's existence. So a lot of growth, a lot of changes, a lot of building, and even like they're continuing to see so much growth. And it's so exciting to see where it's gone, because when I first started there, I essentially had 2 tables in a very, very small exam room that I had to use one table as a desk most of the time, and then to all of the facility. Now teams have their own facilities and their own stadiums, and so I saw such a time of growth, and that was something that I really enjoyed. So that when I came over and started talking about even joining Fans First and the Bananas, I wanted to make sure it's something that I could continue seeing growth and continue developing growth. Um, and talking to the coaching staff really assured me that they had a huge growth mindset. That's a huge part of what they do here. Is they're constantly curious. They want to have growth and want to find kind of what's the next step. Nobody is ever satisfied here, and I think that plays really heavily into my own personality of just never being quite content with everything. Like, how do you make something better? How do you add upon that? So that's kind of a little bit of kind of how I got here, but also why I think it was a good fit mutually on to try and build this department.
Yeah, definitely. So, since the Bananas have gone viral as a single team, well, two teams playing each other, and now they're a full league, um, how have your athletic training responsibilities changed through that growth phase? And are you centralizing services, or is each team technically responsible for their athletic training support?
So we really, so when I started in 2023, there were just 2 teams and it was just me. Um, I was the first full-time athletic trainer they had. They had kind of had some PRN services before that, but I was the first person to be hired in a full-time role here. And 2 teams, not that big a deal. We carry about 25 players per team. That's about one college baseball roster. So it wasn't terrible. And then as we started growing to bigger stadiums, what I started kind of running into was if I needed to get somewhere and I didn't have somebody back, I might be gone for 30 minutes because MLB stadiums are not really meant for easy access to behind the scenes and then back out to front of house. So we kind of ran into a little bit of some issues with just space wise. And I was like, look, we kind of already planned to bring somebody on when we added our third team last year. Uh, and I was like, I think we need to bring it a little bit faster so that we have somebody as we start to get to these bigger stadiums. And just so last year we brought on someone who was part-time during most of the year. They acted in a full-time capacity during the window that we had 3 full-time teams and a 4th developmental team. So there were 2 of us essentially handling 4 teams at that point. And it went well. It was better. It was good to have some assistance. But at the same time, what we found was he and I were both prioritizing one team. So I would always travel with the Bananas. Casey would always travel with the party animals. And then the firefighters and the visitors would kind of get swapped around between us. And what we found was that we just lost some continuity of care there. And so we really advocated this year to, I basically went in and kind of gave all of the advantages to having an athletic trainer per team. It improves your continuity of care. It takes out the component of hey, one person's gone and now we don't know where that person is. So it helps overlap and make sure that we have enough people where we need to have people, and providing a high level experience for the players here. As we kind of have continued to develop, that's something that that continuity of care was such a big important piece to me. So we've now built into our full-time staff. We have 4 full-time athletic trainers, and then when we bring our visitors developmental team in for our 6-week part of our season this year, we'll actually bring on a temporary 5th athletic trainer during that time. So I think that development has been huge, and it's great to be in a place that believes in us and finds value in what we do, and that I can advocate for resources, and they have met me every step of the way for that. So that's kind of how we've gotten here. As we get to having the additional teams, I really wanted to create an environment that was cohesive. So I almost want to treat this like a college athletic training room where you're not isolated in a silo for your team.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not in there, or if I have 15 guys in there, it's not, that's your team, best of luck, handle that. We make sure that we're trying to overlap. How can I help you? If I have somebody that I can't figure this out, hey, what are your thoughts? Can I get, it was something that I found when I worked in the NWSL, as I was kind of alone for the first couple of years there before I was able to have any sort of assistance. I felt really isolated, and that limited my growth professionally, personally. I got frustrated, overwhelmed. And so it's something that I want to make sure that as we're structuring a department, that I don't leave somebody in a situation like that where they don't feel like they can ask for help, that they don't have anywhere to go. That's one thing that I really like about it's a little different because you have obviously competing teams all within the same rooms, but at the same time, I think ultimately our goal is for everyone to kind of have the best possible outcomes. So no one is using it as a competitive advantage over another. So that's kind of some of my thought processes. Not necessarily completely silos. We have I call it the point athletic trainer for our team. That's your primary point contact. And then as we kind of overlap or have different abilities or resources, that we kind of are cohesive and working in that environment together.
Yeah. So it's a high energy, high entertainment high energy and entertainment heavy environment. What are some of those unique challenges that present to your performance program and your recovery program for these athletes, especially since you are working with all of them together, like you said?
Yeah. Well, I think some of the big challenges that we have are some of them are looking at entertainment type things. And one thing that this has been one of our other athletic trainers, Casey, he has taken on so headfirst, and it is kind of developing our EMR system. And we're working with Kitman Labs to help develop an EMR system that works for what we need it to, which is crazy because what we do is not what anybody else does. So we do have some settings in our EMR to be able to mark an injury as, hey, this was an entertainment injury, non-contact, entertainment injury, contact. And then you have your sport in-game, in practice. All the normal stuff you see in your EMR, we're still playing a sport. But then we just have a couple additions that we're kind of piecing out. And so we can try and look at kind of some of our injury rates and looking at some of the information that we want to, like just a data collection. Because that's one thing is we really can't extrapolate from anybody else. We can take the baseball side of things and kind of work it in there. But when my pitchers are throwing an entire inning in less than 2 minutes, the injury rates are not the same. The injury things are not the same because I have pitchers that are throwing back-to-back pitches or they're doing a backflip into a pitch. So there's a lot of nuances that don't make our data overlap as much as we would hope. But with the same time, we do tend to try and take trends and make sure that we're staying within a relatively normal range. So I know last year we had a player with an oblique strain that it was an entertainment injury. It came from playing tug of war pregame. So there's that. Standard, right? Everyone does that. But at the end of it, we took the standard data for a return to play time from the MLB for an oblique strain and found that he fit perfectly into that window. So we felt like that was some validation for our treatments and rehabs and return to plays. But at the same time, it's not always quite that simple to overlap them.
Yeah. So for the sports medicine department, it's just athletic trainers right now. No, do you guys have a strength and conditioning? Do you have a sports scientist? Like, do you guys have any other specialties helping you out?
So we have a strength and conditioning coach. He is absolutely excellent. And he handles all 4 teams with complete grace that I have no idea how he does it. And he asked for more work. And I'm like, I wish I could find more. Like, that's unreal. I need more time, not more work. But he does it so seamlessly. He puts together programs it's been so crazy because we had our Bananas and Party Animals started back in January. So he had all of their preseason, all of their prep work into a platform, got it out to players. It's available to players. He fortunately owns a gym really nearby our stadium, but they also have an on-site area that we lift in. And he comes out most afternoons, is available for players to work with individually. And then he's set all of this up with, oops, I'm sorry, my light just went out. So he set up all of this work. And then, you know what, if there's a player that maybe they don't like to do a certain movement, back squats don't feel great, whatever, he will completely personalize their program and adjust and make corrections for them and put certain information in there that is so adapted to what an individual needs.
Mm-hmm.
And then all at the same time he's doing this, oh wait, we have 2 more teams that are about to start their prep season. So he's working on their off-season workouts, then prepping their preseason plans, and then also kind of developing into as they're about to start their full season this month. He's transitioning a lot of their players into that. So he does a great job. We love to collaborate with him. It makes it a very seamless performance side of things for us.
Is it
So we're very lucky to have him around. We don't have any sports science in-house yet. Again, that's something that I think we're kind of just barely scratching the surface with on our data collection. It has been interesting. We have put some GPS units on some of our players for game day, just to track how much distance they were putting in, and because it's not simply going out onto the field and coming back in the dugout. We have guys that were in these giant football stadiums now and are running up to the third tier level to go kind of greet fans in a certain area out there. And all of a sudden they come back and they're exhausted. It's like, well, yep, that tracks. I think you just put in a mile in this last inning.
Yeah.
So we have, that's sports science. We're not quite as far as I would like us to see us in the next couple of years, but we're kind of scratching the surface there. We do have some contract work with a sports dietitian, and she's phenomenal. She is not local, unfortunately, but she hops on. She's come out for both of the preseasons to kind of establish some connection with the players here. She's helped us build guidelines on setting up some pregame meals and snacks and things that are available and kind of tailored to the activity levels that our players have.
Mm-hmm.
And then she does kind of biweekly meetings via Zoom with them, keeps an open forum, but also presents them with some education information. So she's been a really great resource for us. And then we also have several mental performance coaches that are working with us as well, just as it's something that is so unique and there's so much unknown here that I think they've been such a great resource, not only to the players, but to myself. And hey, how do we approach these situations? How do we kind of handle these situations, or things that I see and things that they might see? How are things taxing players, and what does that kind of look like? Because you also you talk about sports science, we talk about the physical load and loading all the time, but I think there's also a huge mental load that players take on. So that's something that's pretty important to me and trying to monitor. So that's kind of my whole medical and performance department right now, in addition to obviously our physicians.
Comfortable, low profile, flexible, and easy to put on, the Vero ankle brace is simply the best ankle brace for those who move. And that's just about everybody. This brace is adaptable for any phase of injury recovery, whether you're recovering from an ankle sprain, require extra support for your day-to-day, or want to boost your performance. The Vero ankle brace delivers. The Vero ankle brace uses every movement and every step to give you extra boost. The 3-in-1 brace can be worn on either foot, making it the most optimal ankle brace for injury recovery and prevention. The removable stirrups, easy adjust Velcro, and breathable design adapt to your ankle as your strength returns, helping to protect you from re-injury. A dynamic support brace designed by leading orthopedic foot and ankle surgeons. The Vero ankle brace effortlessly adapt to your movements, offering dynamic energy return and support with each step. VeroAnkle.com. Check it out for yourself. VeroAnkle.com. That's VeroAnkle.com.
So, with the mission from Jesse Cole, the fan first, entertain always, how does that work into your athletic training department ultimately? Does it make any differences on how you treat or return people to play, or are you guys on your own mission ultimately?
When it comes to purely a return to play side of things, we do sometimes we'll make adjustments that you don't normally think about making. But hey, we send out a weekly entertainment and media injury report out to our entertainment and broadcast staff, so that they kind of know what's going on and if there's any entertainment adjustments. So say if we have somebody that's returning play from a hamstring strain, hey, they can do entertainment, they can be in the crowd, they can do things. They just, no sprinting, no jumping, no crazy, no excessive dance stuff. Maybe some of the smaller stuff, but nothing crazy. So there are some adjustments we make there. But how I have, it's funny because we actually just recently, someone brought this up the other day. We, our front office staff does a book club, and one of the people over there kind of brought up, I mentioned them how I was looking and thinking about our processes with treating athletes and taking care of them and prioritizing them. And he called it that he mentioned that those were the fans that we were serving, is our fans are the athletes. And that was a way that I had never really quite thought about it. Is that the fans first, that I have to prioritize. My fans are the athletes. Those are the people that I'm prioritizing, taking care of. The other way that I've thought about it really is I'm a behind the scenes person. That's my goal. Nobody's coming to see me to get my autograph. I'm not the top tier person someone wants to take a photo with. But if I can support and advocate for and provide a great environment for a player to be in, that is the more mental and physical component that they're able to take out and put towards the fans. So I'm almost like it's like a layer cake, right? Like there's a layer to making sure that those guys are out there and being able to make those fans, and we're part of the team that is here to support those players on that mission.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Like, just plugging in customer ultimately into that fan first portion is, it's who you are serving, like you said. And I think that's kind of cool how they brought that all around.
Yes.
Let's see. Okay, so with the development of the full-fledged league from scratch, how involved has the athletic training team been in scheduling, planning for policy development, or even the business operations?
So the policy development, I'll start there. It's very interesting. It is something that is very unique here because typically you have a governing body to kind of tell you what to do, right? NCAA, there's a league sends some mandates down and you just, sorry, these are the rules, this is what I gotta go by. We obviously are trying to put some safety measures in place. Quite frankly, when I showed up, the people that had done some PRN work and stuff here before kind of just laughed and said, good luck when there's lightning. And I'm like, excuse me? It's not my favorite way to. They're like, no, they don't care. I'm like, okay, well, here's my time to. And you kind of, sure, you've always had those lightning policies. It's ingrained in an athletic trainer that, hey, there's a lightning policy. This is what you follow. When you get somewhere new, you find out what their policy is. I needed to kind of start from scratch with that. I needed to make sure that the people that I was talking to about these policies understood why, what the safety concerns were, because that was just really had never happened before. It had just never been a concern because nobody really understood why there was a concern. So I had to do a little bit more of a deep diving dig than I had ever had to do before on it, and actually pulling out the resources to show why. I pulled out the resources, I put it all in front of them, and I said, this is the lightning policy I'd like to go with. Please let me know if there's feedback, if you have any information, any thoughts. What do we need to do? I'd like to get this weather station. I'd like to get this app, because this app can serve not only myself and the player's safety, but it can serve fan safety. It can serve your staff safety, and prioritize all of that. And again, such a great company to be a part of, because I handed this to them, was ready for some pushback, and I got absolutely nothing. They said, absolutely, like, that makes sense. Thanks for giving us to the, like, it was really as simple as just educating and providing information.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that's a little bit more challenging in an athletic training role because you're just used to having what it is. And instead, hey, maybe we got to get down to the roots a little bit more and just kind of expose why.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's always a challenge when you're starting anything new. Is kind of working on policies from scratch. Um, I've been very lucky in my time during the NWSL. I was very fortunate to have several mentors that um, had worked for a long time in the NFL and the NBA, and they kind of gave me some of their policy and procedure manuals. And even though I was working alone, I felt like it was really important to create policies and procedures to kind of set a standard for myself.
Mm-hmm.
This is a standard I want to set for myself, and when I'm able to bring other people in, I want this to be the standard that they're following and they're expecting as well. So I took what they had and I made adjustments to it for my time in the NWSL. When I got here, I did the same thing. I took what I had and I started making adjustments, and I try and review it every year. And it's as simple as having a mission statement and having values and how you want to interact with people and what is your standard for reporting an injury and setting boundaries and guidelines on what you expect from players and then what they can expect from you as well. Um, and I think having all of those things, having previously done that, helped kind of develop what I knew I wanted for myself. And now as I've expanded to a staff of 4, hey, these are what the players expect from us. This is what we're expected to kind of provide. And this is how they know they can reach us. So there's been some good creation in that. And it's one thing around here is that there's constant growth, there's constant change. And so when we made the schedule for this year, it was something that I didn't really have any information in. And we started on February 1st this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so early. How are we going to prep plan? But really, it just became kind of, again, more education with the staff that is here and talking with them, the people that are creating the schedule. Hey, how do we do this and minimize and create risk reduction for our injury rates for players, but also maximize the timing of when stadiums are available outside of other seasons, and things like that. So there's a lot of moving parts around here and 10 different departments, I feel like, that always have everyone has a piece to it, a piece to the puzzle. So it's not all about, kind of being controlling on things, but it is truly kind of being involved and creating understanding of all of the different moving parts and how do you best facilitate those.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how many athletic trainers have looked at just a business plan, but the way that you explained it is basically you're putting together a business plan of all the procedures of how you want things run. Not that we're generating money in the athletic training room, but it's watching your costs, making sure everybody's on the same page, you're following the same plan. And I'm sure, like, as you guys are growing right now and utilizing other stadiums, I don't know if you're using their EAPs or policies that they're using in those stadiums, but you guys have to use your own because you're utilizing those stadiums for something totally different than what they were really created for. Because aren't you guys using like NFL stadiums now? And those don't really fit baseball most of the time.
Most of the time, but somehow we're making it work.
Yeah.
That has been kind of a nuance this year that it was something I wanted to start at the very beginning, and it just didn't quite fall into the place the way that I wanted it to. But this year I spoke with our staff that is kind of our liaisons with each stadium. And I said, look, I want to mandate that we are doing a medical timeout at every single stadium with EMS, because normally when you're at a pro level, at a college level, and quite frankly, usually at a high school level these days, I feel like if you're visiting athletic trainer, you go over the EAP. You have a medical timeout. It's kind of an expected standard at this point. We go to these stadiums, and it's us. There is no home AT to tell you where an ice tub is in case there's a heat illness. There's no one to tell you where the ambulance is located. If they've got a second ambulance to come in and swap in case you have to transport. No, there isn't anybody to do that. And I found that was very, very frustrating to me early on, because I just kind of would hope they had the EAP posted in the visiting locker room or in the dugout, and hope that there was some options on there. So now we have a form set up for our medical timeout that we have pregame with EMS, so we know exactly what the best hospital is and where they plan to transport somebody, where they're located, what their crew, how we're going to communicate with their crew. Are we going to use hand signals? They also have a radio from us. So we've created the standard now of this is what we expect a medical timeout to be, because in about 2.5, 3 weeks, we split into 2 separate tours. So the bananas are on their tour and the party animals are on their tour, and we also have the firefighters and the tailgaters that are traveling as well. So now we've created this standard that this is the expected medical timeout that happens before every game. Times have to adjust a little bit depending on location and when we can get EMS, when the EMS is coming on site, when they have available. But so far it's been really great. It's been really helpful to me, and I feel more in control of the situation, knowing exactly what's going to happen. So that it is an interesting nuance, because like I said, you normally go to a visiting stadium and they're like, all right, here's what we're going to do. And you just sit back, relax, let them, the hand signals, and you're good to go. And here it's not necessarily that way. We need to know exactly where we're sending people and what our expectation is for that. So.
Well, and is it you guys are contracting with the facility, I'm assuming, and they're kind of putting together that support team that's supporting the event. It's not that you guys are going out and finding the support staff, like EMS and all that stuff. Yeah. So I think a lot of people forget about that when you're not in college or something, that the hosting athletic trainer puts that all together for you.
We're usually very fortunate, and that most of the time our EMS staffs are pretty familiar with the stadiums. A lot of times we have the same crews that come for NFL games at the NFL stadium. So usually we're pretty fortunate with the crews that we have now. But yeah, it's definitely, that was a little bit of a challenge to start with. So I'm glad that we finally created a standard. I feel better about it. Feel like I'm upholding my end of the bargain a little bit more.
Yeah. And then, so those are like away games. For your home operations. From a cost perspective, how do you weigh investing into the high quality care against the entertainment and operational expenses? I mean, you've said that you have a supportive, you know, team that you're working with already from operations and all that, but how do you negotiate and leverage, maybe more Normatec or compression boots, or, some more supportive therapies and stuff?
It's mostly, I am trying to always be resourceful on things that we're purchasing, and making sure that it's not just frivolous, that we find use in what we're bringing in. I find that a lot of the things what's really interesting is sometimes I feel like I'm blowing it out of the water. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe we need this many more Normatecs. But really, we kind of just early on, we created a standard of care, kind of a standard of expectation. And it's grown and evolved every year, right? I think I originally used to take my kit and a large duffel bag of stuff when we traveled. Those were kind of the two things that went on wherever we went. And now we have 3 football style trunks that go on our semis that are loaded with everything. So some of it has just evolved a little bit and kind of grown some, but I think we've created a standard of care. And so now when I do have to go order more things and kind of modality type stuff, pretty much I just advocate for the fact that we're creating that standard of care. These are things the players are using. And again, it is kind of rolling back through is like, this benefits the players to keep them on the field, to keep them feeling their freshest and at their best. And then that allows them to perform and provide a better game and a better show for the fans that are there.
Gotcha. And then, so you kind of talked about the team culture, just from the athlete perspective and from operations. How do your athletic trainers fit into this fun culture, fan-facing energy, but keeping their professionalism at the same time?
Raise the bar in 2025. Complete your BOC certification maintenance requirements early. Don't forget that 2025 is a reporting year for athletic trainers. Are you on track to complete your BOC certification maintenance requirements? Find out today by logging into your BOC profile at bocatc.org/BOC360. That's right, it's time, and this year is the year to renew your certification maintenance requirements. Check it out at bocatc.org/BOC360.
I think I'll be interested to see now, with having 4 full-time staff members, how Sydney is our athletic trainer with the firefighters and Brian is our athletic trainer with the tailgaters. And I'll be interested to see how their energy goes. One thing that I've always kind of joked about with people is they're like, why don't you come out and dance with us when we do this stuff? And I'm like, because I'm making sure I have that scanning mentality of I'm always making sure that someone doesn't just drop out while dancing. If I'm busy dancing and I don't see somebody get hurt over there, slows down my plans, right?
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the same for everybody. You know, I don't expect no one else to do that. Because I want it to be an enjoyable environment, and if that's who you are and that's how you feel like you can best provide that environment. So I'll be interested to see how kind of everybody handles their own different relationships, because I think everyone gets their own personality, right? Like when you're with teams, when you work college, when I worked college, I never sat down. It was like my own personal mental game with myself that I don't sit down, because if I sit down, I'm afraid that I'll stop paying attention to something and like lose that interaction, like lose, again, if somebody falls on something that I just miss because I'm not as engaged as I am. When I went to pro soccer, nobody stands up. That's weird. you sit down. So I changed my mantra a little bit so the way but I'm very methodical. I'm really type A about stuff, and I'm like, this is how I have to have my stuff set up. This is where I want to sit, and I've always kind of managed it that way. So I think every personality is a little bit different, and that's something that I want to encourage here in my own department too, is having your own personality, working with your athletes in the way that you work best with them. I don't want you to do it in the way that I work best with my athletes, because that's not going to bring out the best of you necessarily. So my engagement is pretty low, but that's not to say that that's the only standard that we roll by.
Yeah. Well, we kind of hit on it about the evolution of your department and where you'd kind of like to see it go by bringing in a few more specialists. But where do you see the league and its health and performance infrastructure evolving in the next few years?
As we continue to grow, so we're adding a 5th and 6th team next year. So I will kind of, again, look to create the standard that each team continues to have their own athletic trainer. With that, wow, what else? What else do I want in there? I think that is something I would like to see our dietitian position become a full-time position. I would almost consider it like a minor league coordinator role, where they kind of are in and around a lot of teams, just because we'll have 6 teams. And I think I think that's a full-time role at that point. And I'd like to continue developing some of these resources and creating player resources that benefit them. And what I'm seeing from some of our contract work this year is how much they benefit from people being on site. So how do I continue to grow? And we're in a little bit of a Savannah is not a huge city. It's a decent sized city, but it's not a huge city. And so finding people with high level of an area of specialty in this area it can be kind of tricky. So that's some of what I look at a little bit is when I'm trying to find the right fit for our players and our teams and our organization, how I can't be isolated to just one local spot, but I also recognize that players benefit from having in-person interactions and having stuff kind of thrown right in front of them. You can't miss it then, right? Like, so those are some of the things that I think about when I continue to think about growth and how do we develop, how are we developing kind of the plans and the policies, procedures, all the standards and stuff that we're setting. One thing we kind of like to do is have almost like protocols for kind of standard injuries type stuff, finding metrics and measures that are going to be standard expectations that, hey, this is what we want to see because, hey, it's the best standard of care. How do we create an environment that upholds a high level standard of care? Does that mean in the future, hey, maybe we need to add a sports PT on staff to help regulate some of those things? If we have 6 teams going at the same time and maybe there's some bigger injuries, but everyone's running around and traveling different places, again, how do we create the best environment? And that's kind of just speaking off the cuff. I don't know for sure what all of our plans will look like, but when I think about, hey, how do we develop this department and continue to bring, is it going to require more people, or how do we utilize what we have and the people that we have to kind of build and develop that again?
Yeah. Well, I'm waiting for the banana lab so that we can start seeing some of the research on these injuries that you guys are experiencing.
Yes. We would love to see. It's funny, our strength and conditioning coach does have some force plates, and so he's been does vertical jump testing, kind of look at fatigue every couple weeks. And then one day he asked our center fielder, he goes, hey, how would you feel about doing a backflip on the force plates? I wish I remembered the number so I could tell you, but the number is outrageous. The amount of force that comes from that landing is so much harder, and I'm like, if there's some data for our situations there.
Exactly. Well, I just interviewed the athletic trainer that is traveling with the circus. And so she kind of sees some of these things too, but there's just not like a lot of research for these specific things that this new setting is actually providing us. So it will be interesting if you guys can get some of that information ultimately.
It would be, I remember, I think it was last year, I was trying to look at some information for our player on stilts, and I was like,
there's nothing.
I got nothing, man. Like, I'm coming up empty here when I look this up. So,
yeah. So with the expansion of the league and your athletic department, what is the biggest takeaway that you've learned so far that, regular athletic trainers in a traditional setting aren't necessarily going to see?
can you ask me that one more time? I lost you a little bit there at the end.
So with the rapid expansion of your athletic training room and the league, what are some of the big takeaways that you have learned that we don't necessarily learn or experience in a traditional athletic training room that you think that athletic trainers should have a better idea of, or, that you think would help in the traditional sense?
I think one of the biggest things is, and I think athletic trainers can be really good at this, but I also think sometimes we get kind of stuck a little bit in our ways. So I think being open-minded and hearing different departments, hearing different people's opinions on things, and finding out how to kind of work in their realm a little bit. Because I know that one of my things I've always been concerned about is like, don't get stuck in this is the way you've done it for 5 years. Even if I think a lot of athletic trainers in the last 10 years have really kind of noticed a lot of changes. The way that the things that I learned in school are minimal that I use now, right? I mean, there's been so many changes in modalities and research and all of the things around that I think you have to be adaptable, right? And I think that is a skill that a lot of athletic trainers have, but I also think it's a skill that sometimes we get frustrated about. I've been doing it this way, and this is the way I like to do it. But it doesn't necessarily help you grow. It doesn't help you grow. It doesn't help the area that you're in grow. You lose some development there, I think. But then I also think that as you continue to develop and like work with other departments and see other people's point of view and how do you work cohesively together. One thing that I kind of I actually told a player earlier today because he was like, is this silly that I'm trying to do this? And I said, no, man, I want you to do what you want to do as safely as possible. No more, no less. If you want to be out there jumping through a hula hoop full of fire, awesome. Have a great time. I'm going to stand by with the burn crane, but no, in reality, like, how do you do it safely? Have we taken measures to make sure that it's not a hula hoop that's too small or like, so when I think about like, my goal is to help other people succeed. Success looks different for everybody. So how do we how do we cohesively come to the right agreement? And I'm not trying to blockade things. I'm not just trying to be a brick wall of no. I want you to do what you want to do. Just with minimal risk.
Yeah, exactly. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add? I feel like we touched on almost everything.
Awesome.
But I'm sure there's still more that you experienced that no one else does.
You could go on and on, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, what is the best way to follow Banana Ball and athletic training action that supports Banana Ball?
And that is probably all of our Banana Ball channels, and they're gonna catch me, and creative team's gonna come after me. But all of our teams individually have accounts on why am I blanking? Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and then they, I believe even Banana Ball is their tag for Instagram and TikTok, where you can kind of follow everybody all there too.
Yeah.
And then all of our games are all broadcast on YouTube. We have some stuff on ESPN and Disney Plus coming up soon, but every single one of our games is always available for free on YouTube. So Perfect. Kind of a fun time there.
Are we going to get a behind-the-scenes series on how you guys put together the stunts and support them as athletic trainers?
They always put plenty of stuff out there. Recently, I believe on the Banana Ball account, you can find Kyle Luigs doing all of his recovery and rehab in preparation for all of the high fives he gives children. So you can see all of our modalities floating around in the backgrounds of that as he. I think we gave him a shockwave treatment for his hand for that one. So
yeah. Well, that's an important technique that he has to master ultimately. So, well, thank you so much for being on the show. It was very insightful in this ultimately new setting that you guys are setting forth for athletic training. So, we hope to have you on again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shelby.
That's it for today's episode of To The Bone. I hope we've sparked some new thoughts, challenged your perspectives, or simply reminded you to dig a little deeper. Remember, life isn't just about what's on the surface. Sometimes you've got to cut deeper and get to the bone of what really matters. To the Bone podcast is a product of Daily LLC. It is hosted and produced by Shelby Daly, ATC, and Randy Daly. No clinical decision-making should be based solely on one source. While care is taken to ensure accuracy, factual errors can be present. For more on the show, visit www.tothebonepodcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Get involved in the conversation. You can find us at www.tothebonepodcast.com. Drop us topic suggestions or be a potential guest. We're all about connecting with you, our listeners. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and keep cutting deep.